Hi everyone, we are starting a new project. I'm jumping around a little bit because of what's going on in the world. So this week we're going to work on the assignment titled Word. It's on page 65 and 66 of your book. You remember the book, I hope. Here it is. Word. So there's three words you're going to choose from: contiguous, topographic, or transmogrification. So contiguous is touching at the edge or boundaries. Topographic is a detailed description of place or region, and transmogrification is to transform or change in a grand way. So let's go look at some examples so you can see what I'm talking about. And it goes far beyond the examples. It's up in your little heads, you know, what you want to do. So let's go check it out. The slideshow. So here we go. Contiguous, touching at the edge or boundaries. The United States is a great example of that. We are the contiguous United States. Hawaii and Alaska are not part of the contiguous United States because they don't touch our boundary. So that one pretty much sums this up. But what else could you do? I think these work along these lines. This is David Meisel's work, Aerial Test Grids. Well, you guys don't have access to drones. Well, maybe you do, I don't know. Or helicopters or airplanes. But that doesn't mean you can't stand up above something, look down, and make images like this. Notice it's 9 pieces that are gridded together, 9 separate images. Love that idea. Same here, another 9-piece grid. Each element is 40 by 40 inches. Pretty incredible. Soak it up. So back in the day, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago, I did a whole series with my iPhone looking at the street and where the paint was cracking and coming off of sidewalks, and where there were grooves and all sorts of different shapes that were making patterns. So I was creating abstracts, and this work kind of reminds me of that. What's in your backyard? What's on your street? What does your roof look like? Here's a example of the piece installed in a gallery. I always love to see how it actually looks in a space. Pretty impressive. The Forest, number 5. We're still looking at David's work. This is from 1986. Logging down the river. Mining. Just because we are doing social distancing at the moment doesn't mean you can't get out and look at the landscape. Just stay away from people. 6 feet. The color in this is just so beautiful. So grab this information and watch the video. There's some great videos. Take the time. I think you have it. Now, topographic, the detailed description of place or region. So back in the 70s, there was a movement called the New Topographics. And Robert Adams and Louis Baltz, Nicholas Nixon, Burnt and Hilla Beecher, all photographed in this style. So it was basically the outskirts, or what was growing up as these towns. So Denver is what Robert Adams photographed, as it was just sprawling and growing. One of my favorite series of all time. Andreas Gursky, who we've looked at. Thomas Struth we have not looked at, but take a look at their work. Quite complex. This, I think, well, actually, I showed this to my Las Vegas dog class. But it's overhead looking down at trucks driving under overpasses. So it's just a look directly down at cars traveling by. And it's always trucks, pickup trucks with people in the back. Carpoolers from 2012. Notice it says edition of 10 with 2 AP. AP is artist proofs. So this was 10 of 10. So after they make 10, you can't make any more in this particular size. Or after you sell the 10. You can't sell 15. That's what's adding the value, because you're limiting the number that's going out into the world. This kind of reminded me of the project I was working on. House Street, west of 41st Street, Oakland, California. So back in 2016, 24 by 24 inches. Simple, minimalist. I think this works as contiguous as well. It's not filling the entire frame. It doesn't have to. It makes for an interesting composition. I like those 1, 2, 3, 4 rocks going up the left-hand side. William Rugen, Western Dioramas. So a lot of these were shot in Las Vegas. This is more along what I feel new topographics would be. But you guys are just thinking about topographic, unless you want to be more stylized. I love the red. It pops out in this desert landscape. The tree leaning off to the right-hand side that falls to empty. It's a beautiful photograph. Do you know where this is? I feel like I drive by these places all the time. The road leading you in to the scene. Leading line, leading road. Look at that cloud up at the top. It's just beautiful. Composition. Standing right there, leading down the middle line, but because of the size and the shape of what's in the background, you don't look at it and think, oh, this is dead center, but it is. It works. I love how you have the one-way sign over by the stop sign, pushing you down the street, pushing you across the frame. Then you get to the ATM sign with another arrow pulling you back. So it's just a loop that we're making round and round in this image. Same here, we're just moving round and round. The Hoover Dam. I love the little element down at the bottom right-hand corner of the person taking a photograph of the couple. So we see that all the time. The one thing I don't love in this photograph is that Mustang car down there. It just doesn't do it for me. I would like that not there. So what do? You clone it away, or you wait till it's not there. Might not be possible to do either, but that's just my sensibilities. This old TV with the reflection of the trees. I love looking at this. Draws me in. I could stay here for quite a while. A painted mural in a restaurant. When you first look at it, you're like, oh, and then you realize what's going on. We're still looking at topographic. pushing the boundaries. Looking out of the car window. An iconic place to visit, and yet you're looking at the rearview mirror, which is creating another image altogether. The door handle, notice you still have the swoop of the door handle. That's not cut off. I think that's important to this image. And the lock diagram is also not cut off. Little things like that define images. Transmogrification, transform, to change in a grand way. So this is Edward Weston's pepper. It's not the human body, but he's transforming it in our mind to be something other than what it is. So Weston studied many peppers. This is pepper number 30. Shot over 4 days in the summer of 1930. This is one of my favorite shots. I've shown it forever. Every semester in every class, I have to find a way to share it with you guys. Shot on an 8 by 10 inch negative. But it's all about lighting. It's all about picking this pepper, or these 30 peppers. You can actually go and find many of these to look at online. And transforming them into something else through light and shadow and placement. Notice the background. Nice and simple. We talked about that when we were looking at American Pie. So simplifying your background. Very beautiful. This is Brian Ulrich, Dark Stores. So these are transformed in a grand way. Once bustling pieces of communities, shuttered, out of business. I love this photographer. I love this work. Malls. Rolling Acres Mall, 2008. Guess what, you guys? That was a mall I used to go to when I was a kid. Just so shocking. They've actually torn it down, or part of it down, and it's now an Amazon fulfillment center. The lights are still on, glowing. Night shot. He has a whole variety of circuit cities that have been closed. They had an iconic entrance, so you always can tell what they are. Lonely, much like today if you go out. Circuit City turned into a Best Thrift. But look at the consistency in the framing. Very similar frame, very similar distance. Repetitive, yet effective. They're all different. Ooh, turning into a CompUSA. An old Holiday Inn. Looks like some photographers out there snapping away. Dixie Square Mall in the summer, in the spring, in the fall, in the winter. It's interesting to be able to revisit places over a number of, revisit over a number of visits. You get what I'm saying. If you can go back to some place over and over again and show how it changes, that adds a lot of interest. You might remember back to earlier in the semester when we looked at, I'm drawing a blank, who did we look at? Oh, William Christensen. Same drive for 40 years. An old factory outlet mall. Northridge Mall. And there you go. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you want to do. These are just start points. Look at the book. There's a few more names in there for you guys to explore. Watch the videos. If you watch one video, it leads to another video to another video. What do you no longer believe in? That's something interesting that you could play with as an idea for this. Maybe you want to title each image. Maybe that will help with the impact. So be curious and jump in and make your images. When you submit these, don't forget to tell me how many images you made along the way. And tell me which one you think is most successful and why is it the most successful image you made this week. Keep an eye on your technical skills. What's your ISO, indoors, outdoors? Think about that before you start to make images. What do you want to do with your depth of field? Do you want shallow depth of field? Do you want great depth of field? Think about that before you make your image. How can it help tell the story? And shoot it shallow. Shoot it with great depth of field. Try both. You might figure it out after when you're editing the images, which one works better. Don't put everything in the center. Use the rule of thirds. Use a frame within a frame. Jump in and play with your framing. Focus. What are you focusing on? Pick your focus. So, snappy, snappy.